handed to somebody at the bottom end of the economic spectrum to somehow jog the economy, that may jog McDonald's, but is not going to jog all of the creation of the products and services that make all of our lives much better today than they were 30 years ago in terms of the stuff we have access to.
So I'll try to answer that as briefly as I can, and I'll go on to your question. So when you talk about, hey, the banks they're not going to just keep the money, they're going to put it out and lend it to people, unless they, which is what they did because we repealed Glass-Steagall. So it's not as simple as, oh, I have money, so then I will now utilize it or I'll lend it out. So that is way oversimplistic. Speaking of oversimplistic, to say that, oh, well, they'll go buy hamburgers with it. Come on. So the middle class is struggling right now. And we've turned this into a Walmart economy where people are getting $7.25. And that if you're getting around $10, I think that's about $15,000 a year. So don't, that is serious pain and difficulties. So if you give those people money, it's not like, I just want to go get a hamburger. No, they desperately need that money, and yes, they will spend it all back into the economy. So that's an economic fact. And so, and then, for the 88th time, we have to find a balance where you have provided an incentive for people to save and invest, and you have provided an incentive for people to be able to put money back into the economy and to be able to live. And it's not, and taxes is not stealing from you. So you're right, I run a business. So in order for people, my employees, to get to my company, you know what they have to do? They have to drive on roads. Okay, so it's not stealing from me to build that road. That helps my business. They had to go to school. The fact that they went to public schools allows them to work for me. All these things are things that I benefit from. I didn't build that company by myself. Every single person that works there helped me to build that company. And that's what it means to work together. To answer Steve's question finally, look, you know, what is this Congress going to do on tax reform? And Ben and I disagree on this too, because we just talked about it a second ago. And this is just political prognostication, but I think that the Republicans will definitely pass tax reform. And the reason I say that is because the Republican Party at this point is completely dependent on their donors. And by the way, don't get me wrong, the Democratic Party is also largely dependent on their donors. I think the Republicans are a tiny bit more corrupt. But, so I think that their donors are going to demand those tax cuts. And if I am right, and we'll all see this, you know, because it's something that's going to happen later, not something that has happened, they will do everything. They will move mountains to make sure that those rich donors and corporations will get their tax cuts.
Okay, so this is an interesting case where I say to Cenk's prognostication from his mouth to God's ears, and he says about mine from my mouth to God's ears. I don't think they're going to pass anything because I think that there's a high level of incompetence inside the Republican caucus, and it's pretty fractious. But I do want to go back to a couple of points, because you actually found some major thematic points. You talked about roads and the fact that we need roads in order to get to work. This is a point Elizabeth Warren made, and obviously a point that President Obama made at the time. I don't think anyone argues that we don't need roads to get to work. The problem is that when you're talking about roads as a percentage of the budget, we are talking about a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the federal budget and of the state budget and even of the local budget. So the idea that you're justifying massive tax rates on corporations in order to pay for roads is just intellectually dishonest. It's a tiny, the stuff that we agree on, the government should spend on, is a tiny percentage of spending, right? It's all the other stuff that we disagree on. As far as the idea that I'm somehow being, you know, dismissive toward people who are buying hamburgers, I'm not. I'm saying that people who are poor need to buy hamburgers to feed their children. They don't have the money to invest in building an iPhone, because when you're just trying to get by and you are living in a Walmart subsistence economy, you're using that money to buy the products and services you need to get by. That does not create new products and services that become cheaper over time through competition. You need somebody to make those investments. You said this about Glass-Steagall, for example. You said the banks, they might make their own investments. In what? In what? They're not investing in themselves. I mean, they have to take that money and then they have to use it to invest in something else. Places like Apple, places, some that fail and some that succeed. This idea that banks are somehow evils is just not the case unless you are talking about them working in Congress. Here you and I agree, working in congruity with a Congress, with a legislature that is attempting to give them kickbacks. Both you and I agree on this. So, and finally, as far as the idea that Republicans pass tax cuts because they're beholden to their donors, okay, and Democrats pass tax increases because the unions give them hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
So, you got me there. The unions give money to the Democrats. Am I
angry about that? I mean, does it upset you as much as, you know, bankers giving money to Republicans?
No. The corporations give way more than the unions.
It's one of those corporations.
It's okay. Look it up. You can Google it. It's really easy. Do I object to taking out union money from politics? Hell no, I don't object. Take it all out. Take the union money out, take the corporate money out, take all the big money out. They're supposed to represent us and not the donors, no matter who the donors are. So, in terms of the question that you asked, Glass-Steagall, well, aren't they investing in things? No. I have a literal answer for you. Oftentimes what they do is financial derivatives. In fact, that's the majority of what they do. And financial derivatives is simply gambling. That's what crashed the 2008 economy. And what is so damaging about the removal of Glass-Steagall is now they could do their financial derivative gambling with depositor money. Boy, isn't that nice. They take your money and they gamble with it. And if they lose, well, that's a sad day for you. But if they win, they keep the profits. You know what that is? That's privatizing the gains and socializing the losses. So it's not that the banks are evil. Of course they're not evil. It's just that they're driven to make more money. Of course, that is the whole point of maximizing profit. So if we say, hey banks, you're allowed to go and buy politicians, although the Supreme Court would say, no, they're just talking to them. They just gave them billions of dollars, they're just having a conversation, right? Just because they gave them billions of dollars, do they want something in return? Of course they want something in return! And that's our money! So what they got was laws passed by politicians to remove Glass-Steagall, and yes, Clinton and Gingrich, yes, both parties are guilty on that, but now the Democrats want to put it back and the Republicans don't, and they took our depositor money and they gambled with it. And if you thought, if you gambled, you get to keep all the profits, and if you lost, it didn't affect you at all, you would probably gamble a lot of money too, and you would take a lot of risk until you crash the economy, and that's exactly what happened.
So let me just add one piece to this question. You'll respond to it too. You've talked a lot about the corruption in politics, and a core part of the Trump campaign was railing against the establishment, which he thought was corrupted, and a lot of the big donors were initially against him. So which way is the Republican Party going to go on this? Is it Trumpism and the grassroots movement, or the establishment?
Well, I mean, when it comes to money in politics, I think that breakdown doesn't really hold. I mean, the fact is that President Trump, during the campaign, talked routinely about how he engaged in putting money into politics. So, I mean, this is a game that a lot of people are playing. It's kind of a weird question. But as far as the idea that all money should be out of politics, here's the problem. Okay, TYT, we both have corporations, and we expound upon politics every single day. And we motivate thousands of people, right, every day, on both sides of the aisle. That is effectively an in-kind contribution. Now, you campaigned with Bernie Sanders. Did you do it because you expected, that's fine. Did you do that because you supported Bernie Sanders, or did you do that because you expected some gimme for TYT in return? I assume you did because you supported Bernie Sanders, right?
Yes.
So, okay, so the point that I am making is to attribute to everyone else bad intent when it comes to political spending in politics, but to yourself it's totally fine. And when it comes to other media entities that give all kinds of... When the New York Times, which is biased to the left, spends an inordinate amount of time and money reporting on Mitt Romney's idiotic stories about how he was in high school and cutting a gay kid's hair in 1932. If you're saying to me that that is less impactful on the political sphere than a corporation, which is a group giving money to a political candidate for purposes of supporting that candidate, I fail to see how you can say for yourself that you are innocent in this, but everyone else is guilty. I don't believe that. Either everyone's guilty or everybody is innocent, or if you can find the actual cases of guilt where there's a quid pro quo, then we agree, that's prosecutable, right? Yeah. So, other point, when you talked about the 2008 economy, you talked about Glass-Steagall and how this led to the crash. The real reason that the crash happened had far less to do with Glass-Steagall. I opposed the bailouts, by the way. It had far less to do with Glass-Steagall than it had to do with the fact that the federal government was actively promulgating the notion that corporations should give subprime mortgages to people who are not qualified as This meant that, as you say, corporations are not inherently conservative, they're not inherently free market, they're inherently profit driven. So if they felt that they could give a bunch of subprime mortgages and this would inflate real estate prices, and if things went wrong, they just foreclose on the nearest house, and the market just keeps going up and up and up, and they can just, as you say, turn these into derivatives and sell them on the open market by pretending that these are all good loans because they have government backing, then of course you're going to get an inflated, overheated real estate market. But the question there is not the workings of the free market, it's the combination that you like in a mixed economy, that I hate. Okay, I hate mixed economies in the sense that I don't believe that capitalism and socialism should be mixed, that corporatism is the solution. Okay, what you're talking about is corporatism. You're talking about Glass-Steagall, which freed, they're getting rid of Glass-Steagall, it freed the corporations to invest in a free market manner, but also they gave a bailout to all of these corporations by essentially incentivizing them to give a bunch of bad loans, knowing that if things went bad, then all the losses would be socialized. The problem there is not the free market, the problem there is a government that is acting as a backstop for bad decisions in the free market by property.
I love that. There was a lot to respond to there, so let me try to take it one at a time. So first off, I love the idea that the government made the banks do the subprime mortgages, and golly gee, the government twisted the banks' arm when they made billions upon billions of dollars. Oh man, oh don't make me make another billion. Don't make me make another billion. No, they did those, if they thought they were going to lose money off of it, they would have a fiduciary responsibility not to do it.
I agree.
Okay, they were not forced to make billions of dollars, they were not forced to then have us bail them out.
Right.
They did all of that because there's legalized bribery in America.
Right, because the government was giving them money.
So now let me address that. You say, well, what's the difference between your speech and their speech? Mine is actually speech, and theirs is money. So there's a giant difference.
You spend money on
I think the biggest point here, the difference between big government and small government. So a lot of times conservatives say, oh, you guys like big government. That's not true. So let me explain. If I asked you, hey, you got a plumbing job, what would you like, big pipes or small pipes? I don't know. What's the job we have? It depends. It's the same thing with the government. Okay, what size government would you like? I don't know. What's the job we have? So to say big government or small government doesn't make any sense. So, for example, do I want a big government that invades Iraq? Hell no, I don't. No way. And then you were vociferously for the Iraq war, so in that sense, you loved the big government. Couldn't get enough of it. And I could go on and on and on. Republicans say, no, 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 we don't like big government, but we'd like to be inside your uterus. It's okay. So you're talking about when you like when you're rich and you want tax cuts. Oh no, I don't want big government, I want small government. But when it's convenient for you and you like oil subsidies and you like wars and you like to meddle in people's private lives, then you love big government.
So first of all, I'd like to point out that Cenk's big government, small government dichotomy was proposed by you, not by me. I talk about the proper scope of the government's involvement in particular areas the same way that you do, and we may disagree on all of that. My point is that overall, if you're talking about the level of government spending, it needs to go down, and you believe that it really needs to go up. Okay, so it's disingenuous.
It's not on war, it doesn't.
No, but overall...
Not on the war on drugs, not on so many of those wasteful programs. It depends, but let me...
Overall, you want the federal budget increased. Overall, I would like the federal budget decreased. To pretend that this is not true is to lie. Okay, and when you suggest... there is no difference between, we just have different visions of what the government should cover. These things cost different things. Okay, the war in Iraq was very expensive. You know what's more expensive? Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. All of these are vastly more expensive. Now, as far as, again, going back to this idea that, again, I don't like this big government dichotomy any more than you do, in the sense that you say, well, it's big government for the government to get inside people's wombs. And I say that it is the government's job to preserve life, liberty, and property, and one of those things is life. To protect you from someone else taking it. Okay, to protected from someone else taking it. Now, when it comes to the idea that all money in politics is bad, again, I ask you, final question, final points on, we're going through 10 points at a time here, but final point here. When you say money in politics is bad, again, I ask you, Buddy Roemer gave you $4 million to start TYT. What did he expect in return? Should he not have given you money? Was money not speech? It was just money, after all. It's just like a hooker, I assume. So are you the prostitute? When you take money from Al Jazeera, does that make you a hooker?
So that was an awesome conflation. Okay, we were talking about money in politics and how money is not speech when you give it as a campaign donation, and you turn it around to a business investment. You know, in a business investment, it has nothing to do with speech. Money is money. They gave us an investment, so because they believed in our business. That has nothing to do with politics.
And you think the government is in the business of regulating business. So, if the government is in the business of regulating business, what would be the problem with the government telling Buddy Roemer he is not allowed to invest in your business?
What? No! No, those are two different issues. No problem, no problem. No, one thing is to say, hey, let's set reasonable limitations on what can happen around elections, which is again what most developed Western countries do. So, and they have different versions of that rule. There's ads you can run, you can't run ads within a certain period of time. You have public financing versus private financing. Those are rules around an election. That is a completely different issue than the government saying randomly you can and you can't invest in businesses. Why? So you're conflating those two issues that have nothing to do with one another.
Why?
Let's just,
what does why mean?
Because
you believe in education, so why don't you believe in healthcare?
Because it's a free country and I get to spend my money wherever I damn well please.
I gotta ask him.
Very quick.
You damn well please. Okay, so when the Koch brothers or Bloomberg or Soros puts in hundreds of millions of dollars into elections, you think, well, he's doing them because they're good guys and they damn well please buying all those politicians. Or you think, no, the politicians would never be affected by hundreds of millions of dollars in legalized bribes. And you can't just spend your money anywhere you want. Of course there are rules. You can't bribe people.
Right.
There's many things you can't do with your money. And one of those should be bribing politicians, but we made it legal. So I'm curious what your opinion on that is. Do you think that they're just golly shucks, they just mean well?
Cenk, you're a lawyer, so you know that bribery requires two parties to the bribe. If I give money to a politician, there must be something in return. If there is no quid pro quo, there is no bribery.
You think there's nothing in return?
Well, you
think the politicians don't do those favors?
I think very often there is something in return. But I want you to point me to the things that are in return, not just say that all spending on politics ought to be forbidden except for the Young Turks.
No. Of course that's what we say. If you want to get money out of politics and then you said the Young Turks cannot donate money to politicians, I'd say, of course! That's the whole point of getting money out of politics.
Wait, so
this idea that,
Come on.
it's so disingenuous. Even if you're a Republican and you're a conservative, you think there isn't crony capitalism? You think that $4.4 trillion that went to subsidies isn't because they got campaign donations? You know it's because they got campaign donations.
Okay, final question.
This is going to be the last word.
Final thing here on this, okay? Final question on this. So, Young Turks is super successful. We have 80 million uniques. It's wonderful. Do you think Bernie Sanders would care more if you gave him $10,000 or if you dedicated your entire network to kissing his ass for an election cycle?
First of all, I think you and I will agree that what we did in praising some of Bernie's programs, a lot of Bernie's programs, but not all. For example, I disagreed with him on guns, and I thought Hillary's education program was slightly better than Bernie's. And by the way, I agree with Republicans on the Export-Import Bank. So it's not blind allegiance. That is not what we do, not remotely, okay? Second of all, I think you'll agree with me that the mainstream media kissing Hillary Clinton's ass for 2 straight years was a much bigger problem.
Would you outline?
Now, the distinction that you're asking for, and now I've answered I think 4 times is, one is speech, and by the way, protected, you said life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I think we all agree to that. I got a big applause line. I also agree. And in our Constitution, the First Amendment is right to speech and freedom of the press. So that is that rubric. Money is not in the First Amendment. There is no right to spend money on politicians. Money is money, speech is speech.
All right, so let's do rapid fire now as we come to the close here. I think, by the way, there's wide agreement about the corruption in politics, maybe different ways of how to deal with it, but this has been a very good conversation. So I'll go first to Ben. As we look at 2020, what will be a winning message and who will be a winning candidate on the Republican side in 2020?
I think that the greatest ally that the Republicans have is the incompetence and stupidity of the Democratic Party. 2016. In fact, I have a feeling that Cenk actually might agree with me on this. That 2016 election, Donald Trump became president of the United States, right? Hillary Clinton was the worst candidate in the history of mankind. And that had, so, you know, the Republican message I never thought was a particularly losing message. I just think that what we have right now is such a polarized politics that it's going to be very difficult for anybody to pass anything in this climate. I also think that what we have almost a reactionary feel on both sides. Like what I like about this debate is that we're actually talking about ideas, which is actually pretty rare in this sphere. What's become more common is that on the left, there's this retreat to intersectionality as an identity politics. This idea that if we can cobble together a group of people who are feeling victimized by American society, you know, we have black people and we have Hispanic people and we have women, we have gays and lesbians and transgenders, and they all feel really bad about how American politics is going. And if we push that notion, we can create a coalition. There'll be a brand new coalition never before seen in American politics, and that requires a woman to run, or that requires a black woman to run, or that requires a minority to run. If they do that, then what you're going to see from, and I think in an equally nasty way, from the right is a response that says, okay, well if you're going to do identity politics, you will see some white identity politics from the right, which I think is really negative. I don't want to see either of those things. What I would like to see is the Democrats campaign on the bigger, on the stronger involvement of government in your life and higher taxes program that Cenk wants them to campaign on. The Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren program. And I would like to see the Republicans campaign on my program, a smaller government, libertarian program that says the government should get out of our lives as much as humanly possible.
For Cenk, what will be a winning message and who will be a winning candidate for Democrats in 2020?
Yep. So,
Wouldn't it be weird if this ended up being the stage?
Backstage, it's a presidential debate.
Okay, so, look, Ben, you said earlier that you didn't set up the big government, small government paradigm, but you just said you want them to run on a small government
yes.
platform.
Less involvement
so, again, small government doesn't make any sense. So let's break it down. You asked me about particular issues, so I'll give you one. So you were in favor of the Iraq War. That cost us at least $1.5 trillion. Then people turn around and say to Bernie Sanders, well, I mean, college for your kids are middle class, that's unaffordable. That's way too much money. You can't do that. That costs $75 billion a year. First of all, college for your kids, you know what that's called? That's called the American dream. And for one Iraq war, for the cost of one Iraq war, we could have gotten 20 years of free college for all those kids and the American dream. So, it isn't about big government or small government, it's about what do we do with the money. So that $1.5 trillion could have gone to us, could have gone to the middle class, could have gone to a better economy. Because when you go to college, you come out, you start businesses, you engage in this market, and you make things better and you employ people. We could have used that for us, instead we wasted it in Iraq. And, by the way, I believe, Ben, you want to get tough on Iran, you want to rip up the deal, etc. If you know the Iraq war was a waste of blood and treasure, wait till you get a load of what happens in Iran. So we're not going to make that mistake again. We're not going to make that mistake again. So what would I want to, look, this idea of the identity, that Democrats run on identity politics, and some of them do. But let's not forget that Republicans do the same and worse. Who was the one who came up with the Southern strategy? That was the Republican Party. And the Southern strategy was, let's go get racist white voters in the South. Capitalist invention called Google. Google it. So two Republican chairmen have said, yes, we did do that strategy and we apologize. So that's a fact. They're the ones who invented identity politics. So when you like identity politics when it serves your interests, but all of a sudden when we say, hey, can black people have the same rights as white people? Oh, identity politics. Can gay people have the same rights as straight people? Identity politics. Go! It's called equality. Look into it. It's called America. Okay? USA! 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 Equality for all of us!
I want to respond to this is
very quickly.
This is very quick.
Okay.
Okay, I want to respond to a point. This is a point that Cenk made last year in his debate with Dinesh repeatedly for about an hour. Was the Southern strategy with regard to the Republicans. Okay, I'd like to point out the idea that the entire South solidly moved into the Republican category because of the Civil Rights Act is historically false and has been debunked multiple times by people ranging from Sean Trent of Real Clear Politics to professors at the University of Pennsylvania. And there's a bunch of ways to debunk it, including the fact that the Congress did not switch Republican in the South until 1994. Okay, it did take 30 years for the racists to realize what was going on. 21 senators from the South were Democrats. How many of them became Republicans after the Civil Rights Act? The answer, 1. The other 20 stayed Democrats. In 1952, Eisenhower did not win a ton of the South. Eisenhower did win, however, 7 states in the South in 1956, after he sent federal troops down south. The reason that the Republican Party started to win in the South began in the 1950s, not after the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and it was largely due to the movement of industry down south. It was new fringe members of the Republican Party, younger members of the Republican Party, who switched over to the Republican Party in the South, not old Democrats, who remained old Democrats and are still old Democrats today.
Real quick. You're right.
By the way, Jimmy Carter launched his 1980 campaign at the headquarters, that town in Alabama that was the headquarters for the KKK. So to pretend that it was only Republicans playing the bad and evil race strategy is just a lie.
That was him responding to his own thing. Okay, so real quick, because you're right, we had a whole hour-long, almost an hour-long debate on the Southern strategy. You guys always cherry-pick certain windows of time. In this very narrow window of time, this people came to that people.
From 1952 to 1994.
Hold on. If you're so right, why did two heads of the RNC come out and say, yes, we did the Southern strategy, and we apologize? Why did Pat Buchanan say to me on MSNBC, yes, we did the Southern strategy, yes, we got whites to vote for us in the South, and we had a good run? Okay, it wasn't me saying it, was Republican leaders and Buchanan who did it at the Nixon campaign, admitting that that was exactly the strategy.
And there were some members of the Republican Strategy Council who were doing evil things. That doesn't mean all the people who voted for the Republicans were voting for them because of those things. And to impute that motive to tens of millions of people down south is to ignore not only every
I'm imputing it to the Republican
but also fail to recognize history.
All right, I'm going to cut. So, first of all, I think we figured out who this crowd wants to run for president in 2020. Second of all, this is exactly the type of debates we need to be having between the left and the right all across the country. And I want to thank Politicon. Because this is exactly what we need in America. If we're not listening to each other, then our democracy won't succeed. And that's why I think this has been a very constructive debate. I'm not going to appoint a winner, but the real winner is the audience, because I think you've hopefully learned something new. So please join me in thanking our debaters tonight, Ben Shapiro. Give a round of applause for you. My name is Stephen Olicaro with the Millennial Action Project. Thank you and have a good night.